What's going on, guys? It's Bromley. I am back. It's been a week since Clash on the Coast wrapped up, and I want to give you guys some insight into some of the amazing things that happened at that show. What my experience was, I took this whole week to kind of just vegetate, to relax, to let everything that happened soak in, figure out what I'm doing now with my training moving forward, evaluate my performance, and also evaluate what I'm going to do with all of these platforms I'm trying to juggle as far as YouTube and the forum and Patreon and everything else. I got a lot of projects I'm working on, so I feel rejuvenated. So I'm excited to get on the ball. And I want to start with wrapping up basically everything that happened. I am going to do a breakdown of the heats along with the finals, but today I'm just going to do a brief discussion of how I did evaluate my performance along with some of the other things that happened there. Special mention, hats off to Jackson Reeves, man. Jackson Reeves did a fantastic job running the show. I know he had some other help around. I don't know everybody's names, but I see him as kind of the mastermind. Since I've known him, he's a fantastic networker. No doubt in my mind that he was primarily responsible for the way that it ran off as tightly as it ran, for bringing the sponsors, for getting the connections to WS, to ESPN. And that's integral to promoting the show. So, really excited to see the work he did. He's not getting nearly enough credit. He runs Iron Resurgence. It is a company that helps vets. So, check out his stuff if you get the opportunity to. So, hats off to Jackson and the people he worked with to pull this off. Starting out, the noteworthy stuff that happened there were the records that were set. And it's a testament to how good this contest was, how well it was thrown together. They didn't just have a middleweight show. They brought in some heavy hitters to draw attention and to give the spotlight to some of the other people in the sport that may not get that spotlight quite as often the way things are ran right now. Nadia Stowers hit a 215 block press, had a 225 locked out overhead and lost it forward. It was locked and then she lost it forward. And then she hit a 260 log. Those are both middleweight records. She is going to be a force to be reckoned with. I think she needs to age just a little bit in the sport to round out some of her rough edges. But as far as static strength goes, she is going to be absolutely untouchable in the near future. She's just so far ahead of everybody else. So watching her do what she does and just get the spotlight, I mean, it was awesome to see. Melissa Peacock from Canada. She came in and hit a 275 axle clean and press, again, as a middleweight woman. That's the middleweight, and I believe all-time record right now. And watching her clean that axle, I was thinking, I can't clean a 275 axle that well. She was so strong, so efficient, so dialed in. Again, watching that was really impressive to see. And then, of course, Bobby Thompson. Bobby Thompson came in, hit the new American log record. He hit a 478. Ty Cotton gets the mention, man. He lightest guy there by far. Looks like he's well under 300 pounds. He clean and pressed 440, lost his balance, lost the rep, took the remaining time, recleaned it, pressed it successfully. It basically was a double with 440. That's what it looked like. That's something you would expect from Zydrunas Savickas in his prime. Not a guy that looks like he's an overfed middleweight. I mean, if I had to guess, I'd say he's under 300 pounds, but again, he's probably very dense. But that was super impressive to watch. And then Bobby Thompson, every jump he made, I didn't think he had it in him when I saw his 440 because he's very slow, very methodical, and it didn't have that snap that you would expect to say, oh, he has 50 pounds in the tank. He, at every turn, was consistent, even, controlled, and calculated. His 478 looked just like his 440. And it was impressive to watch. It shows how dialed in he is. It shows how much he gets out of his technique and his stability and his strength. He even danced around a little bit. He lost his footing and still saved that log press overhead. Just absolute impressive power. You got to see Rob Kearney give up. You got to see Rob Kearney get up, give him a hug, and that was really cool to watch. So it's a testament to what the promoters are doing, trying to bring in other people, trying to build a buzz. It was awesome to watch that sprinkled in around the main show, around the main 105 kilogram show. And it really set the tone for what we were all doing there. And then, of course, Nicholas Camby in the finals hit a 417 axle clean and press with relative ease. I had the pleasure of talking to him a little bit. Apparently, he did have a Russian weightlifting coach for a time. And that lends itself to how good he is at clean type movements and at jerking. He looks like he has room in the tank. I know he's hit a 450 jerk from blocks. So there's no doubt that he'll push that further and further up if he gets the opportunity. Keep in mind, the Apollon's axle was 366, what they used to clean and press at the Arnold. And you saw how some of the strongest men in the world would struggle just to get it up once. His clean at 417 was so efficient. His jerk was so efficient. That was just nasty to watch. As far as my performance, I'll cover mine a little bit just on how I feel about it and how I stacked up. There was me and 4 other people. We had Micah Rupp, who was local. He moved to Maryland. with his wife Hannah. There's Adam Geiger, who I competed with when he got his pro card in 2018. He's 6'2 or 6'3, very fast. I was very worried about him. This line of events favors that type of athlete. There was Nicholas Camby, who everybody had favored to win. And then there was Josh Isley, who was actually my pick to go into the finals with Camby. Camby thought it would be him and Geiger. It turned out to be Camby and Isley, because Isley is like 6'6". He's very fast. He can carry everything. He can throw everything. So I thought he would be a shoo-in. So I didn't have high hopes I'd make it into the finals. The way that the contest ran, and it was a testament to how well the promoters thought about everything, they had the heats broken up into different stations. So station 1 would be the press, station 2 the farmers medley, station 3 the sandbag medley. And the camera would go from 1 to 2 to 3 and rotate back through as they got through all of the heats. That did work against the purpose of the heats, because the purpose of the heats is having these smaller little dramatic contests leading up to the main one, so it's easy to keep track of. That's a spectator experience, and that didn't really lend itself to how they ran it. Now, they were trying to make sure that the viewers stayed engaged, and by not having any downtime, they certainly did that. Contest ran very fast. We're all pleased with it. So it's a minor observation. I can't even call it a complaint. I would think if you're going to have the heats, you want to package and present the heats in that way. But that's something for them to work out later. It still went off without a hitch, and it was still, I think the people watching loved it. I know we loved how quickly and efficiently it was ran. So the events, starting off, we had the overhead press medley, 300 log, 250 block, 172-inch dumbbell for reps. I clocked 6 reps in just over a minute in training. We had a minute 15. I was very confident I was going to get 7. The inch dumbbell feels very good to me. It's very compact, very easy to handle. I'm still figuring out if it was my peak, if it was nerves, if it was being disoriented. Something detrained me a little bit in the static events. I didn't do as well in the static events as I did in training a week or 2 prior. So I have some tweaking to do with that, definitely. And I think it has something to do with getting spread thin with all the other events. But there were guys who came in just as strong as they ever were and cleaned house. So it's not much of an excuse. It's just me trying to work out the logistics of what happened so I don't make that mistake again. I did 4 reps on the dumbbell. The log was relatively easy. The block I didn't struggle with. I took my time. I don't do an explosive pop. I lean back, take my time, get my hands under it, make sure I'm set before I press. And I'm a very stable presser. So log pressing, odd object pressing, it's usually pretty good for me. People are complaining about the flex in the platform, but I didn't notice that at all. I think normally it's guys looking up at blue sky get disoriented when they're not used to it. So if you're going to do a contest where you're pressing outside, practice pressing outside. Little word to the wise. That's also why I don't wear Oli shoes. I feel like it makes that worse when I'm outside. I feel like it destabilizes me. I did 3 reps touch and go, didn't touch the 4th rep on the ground, so I had to re-clean it, and then I missed that rep. I definitely felt fatigue setting in. If my press was as strong as it's been in the past, I could have made that up, but really I just wasn't conditioned. If I was a little more conditioned, I think I could have made it through, but that's something for me to look at for next time. Camby hit an extremely easy 7 reps. I mean, it was just crisp. He didn't struggle. He was, hyping up the crowd with one hand while he had the dumbbell up on his shoulder. So he hit 7. Tommy Sharp in another heat hit 7. They're both amazing overhead pressers. So I wanted to catch Camby in that, but it just wasn't in the cards that day. Isley and Geyer didn't make it past the log, I don't believe. And then Michael Rupp did get 1 rep on the dumbbell. So I'm in second place. That was a pretty good spot. Going into the farmers, 320 farmers, the 400 duck walk. The duck walk is unlike anything I've ever carried. The plates on the loading pin we use, I was pretty fast with. And I'm like, I don't have room to get faster. So it's not that trainable, so I'm not going to worry about it. The different position everybody was in, you're squatted a much, much lower because it was a higher implement. And that just wrecked people. My hammies just shut off halfway through. I'm pretty fast with the farmers. My farmer split was up there with a lot of guys. I was faster than Geiger, I believe, but it didn't matter because a duck walk is what stole everybody's soul. I dropped it halfway and had to bunny hop to the finish line. So I only got 43 seconds there. The better guys got in the mid 20s. I'd have to go back in time a couple months to smooth that over. So it is what it is. Again, just knowledge for next time. It's one of those things you can't anticipate until you do it.
Ortiz, what heat is this?
This is heat 5 with Alex Bromley, 42 seconds.
Going into the sandbag to the chain drag. My sandbag is pretty fast, and it was light, so I know I could manhandle it. My chain drag was always pretty good in training. I thought I had a good split, and I didn't have a lot of room to improve on it. If I hit the gas a little faster and shaved a second off, I got 29, which I thought was a good time considering a lot of guys were gassing out at the end of it. Geiger hit a 28, and Camby and Isley were in the 25, 26 second range. Very close in our heat in that event. You saw a lot of heats that were much, much more spread apart. And I was just on the outside, and I know that about myself with those types of moving events. If I'm perfect, I'm still just on the outside of the fast guys. I usually have to rely on somebody tripping up somehow, and that's not a good spot. It's not a spot you want to be in. You want to make sure that you're actually better than the other guys, not pretty good and hoping that other people make a mistake. They didn't make any mistakes, so that put me exactly where I expected to be. Again, if I went back in time and re-emphasized dragging, could I have gone a little faster? Perhaps, but that's just something to pay forward into another contest. Uh, so going into day two, we started with the keg toss. Interesting dynamic. Instead of 15 feet, it was about 14 and a half because it was in the sand. So it was sunk below the sand. And the kegs, 40 to 55. I can't throw a 55 to save my life. Never have in training. And there were 8 of them, and it was at the end. I didn't expect to get past the first 3 or 4 kegs. So I was trying to pace myself. It turned out the drop in height favored guys who had more endurance. Tyler Young obliterated the kegs, and I had written him off as being disqualified from putting up a good keg run. And there were a lot of very explosive guys that got wiped out by the number of kegs. Power athletes fatigue very quickly. So you had guys that could chuck a 60-pound keg over 15 or 16 feet, and they didn't finish. So it was very interesting to see. I finished. Biggest surprise of the entire trip. I was extremely happy. Looking back, if I went with a different approach, anticipating that I was able to finish, I could have shaved off 15 or 20 seconds by cycling faster. But I don't know that that would have given me the edge. I don't think I would have beat anybody else because Geiger and Isley took it and they were super fast. I wasn't catching them. So I wasn't really that upset. I beat Micah, and actually Camby had a hard time because he couldn't coordinate the throw over the bar. He was throwing straight up. Not a power issue at all, just timing coordination. So I took third, which really surprised me. Going into the squat, very unruly squat apparatus. I did 5 reps with an axle with 600 pounds, 2 blocks to depth in training. Felt very confident given how that felt that I had 7 or 8 here. It felt differently. The weight was displaced further out. Any bobble side to side was just devastating. You would see guys get pitched and then it would be game over no matter how manageable the weight was for them. So everybody zeroed in my heat. I came in, I did an easy single, little sticky on the double, composed myself, tried to get an extra pop off the bottom. I got a little imbalance and it stapled me. I was disappointed. I don't know what I could have done differently. If I could have approached it technically a little bit different, perhaps. Watching Camby go, Camby got stapled hard on his first one, gutted it out, adjusted, hit a clean second, and then an even cleaner third. So that just shows how important being adaptable is and adjusting to the equipment you're using. You have to be a thinking man. You have to be able to work and adjust on the fly. And that's what he did. So he edged me out by a rep. I feel like, again, my squat's been stronger in the past when I wasn't dealing with a lot of tendonitis issues. So I know I had potential to do better. I just couldn't tie it in with all the other things I was doing. So I definitely have some retooling to do with contests like this. To get into the finals, I would have needed that extra bit of squat power that I've had in the past. I would have needed to have that extra bit of pressing power because the moving events, there's not a lot of ground I could have potentially made up. Maybe a second or two in the sandbag medley, but really I had to rely on the static event stuff and it just wasn't there. So again, paying it forward, looking forward to how I'm going to tweak things next time. Last event, I'm in second place, mainly because of the zeros in the squat event bumped me up quite a bit. So I was in second place going into the load medley. I knew I wasn't going to beat these guys unless somebody had a devastating mistake. My chances of getting all 5 implements and getting them faster than Camby, Isley, and Geiger were virtually non-existent. So at that point, I went out to have fun. The 200-pound barrel was the only challenging implement. All other 4 implements were very light, very easy, advertised as being a little heavier than they were. That was not a struggle whatsoever. In fact, I don't think there's anybody that missed any of the other 4 implements. The barrel was just big, awkward, smooth, nowhere to grab. My barrel had a notch on the bottom that I got away with grabbing and getting a little bit of purchase on. This barrel was completely different from that one. So we found a technique to set it on the leg, get one hand on the lip, one hand hooked under the smooth part, and getting it up to the shoulder. And I'm sure you've seen some guys execute that beautifully. Actually, Micah, who I didn't peg for being a threat at all, finished all 5, and he used that technique. So I did it once or twice, warming up. I'm like, okay, that's pretty easy. I think I got it. My only chance of getting the barrel was doing it first, so I committed to that. I got it in position. Feet were sinking in the sand. Barrel was too far over to one side. It wasn't upright the way it needed to be. Bottom line is I didn't get purchase on it, and I didn't want to spend another 20 seconds trying to find that sweet spot. So I opted to ditch it and go do the other 4. And that was just a devastating run. That wasn't competitive in any way. And it's that one screw up. So if I found that handle the first time, it would have went up. My time still wouldn't be super competitive. I still don't think I would have beat the other guys. So I'm not that mad about it because I don't think it really matters. But again, it shows how important being practiced is. In a world where I had that barrel to train with, it would have been a completely different story. But you do what you can to specialize, and the rest has to be made up with experience and kinesthetic ability and just general strength and know-how. And that's what makes the sport interesting. It's what makes it exciting to watch. So I tied with Geiger overall for 3rd. I thought Geiger was going to run over me, given 4 of the events of the 6 were in his wheelhouse that I expected him to dominate me in. So tying for 3rd out of that heat, I wasn't upset. And they scored us all together in an overall because we all did the same events. And I ended up placing 14th out of 28, again, beating Geiger by 4 or 5 points. So I was pretty happy with that. Geiger's a great athlete, so I only mention that because, I'm humbled that I was able to take him in something like that. Now, in the overall, there were 6 pros that placed below me. So if I'm dead in the middle, if I'm 14 out of 28, there were 6 Strongman Corp middleweight pros who placed below me. Now, one was Gary Piotrowski, who had smashed his toe and he was handicapped throughout the whole show, and he came out and did what he could. He actually did pretty good in a few events, had a few rough events, but he sure wasn't operating at 100%. But we had guys like Wasisco, Joe Grossi, Adam Geiger. We had a list of guys who were formidable pros in their day, who earned those pro cards, who placed in the bottom half. And there were a lot of amateurs that made it into the finals, that beat out pros in their heats. So I think it's a testament to how competitive this field is and how flawed the pro system is. There's this strong bottleneck with pro cards because they only have 2 opportunities a year. So just as much as you can say it makes it that much harder to get one, which makes it worth more, which is true, it also prevents a lot of really, really good talent from having the opportunity to compete on that level. And when you go to OSG, which has pros compete against non-pros, and when you do a show like Clash, which has pros compete against non-pros, you see that fleshed out. You see the real talent. You see the guys like Reed Tompkins, Tyler Young. You see the international guys, Isaac Mays. You see these guys that absolutely run over a lot of these pro athletes in the right series of events, and it lets you know that there's more we can be doing to really find who the best of the best is. So I thought that was cool. Any other show, if I placed mid-pack, I would have a meltdown. But most other shows, you get like the rule of thirds, where the top third are really, really good. The middle pack are good but unrefined, and the bottom third are still working on getting good. This show, 95% of the people there were close to, if not pro level. This really overwhelmingly is the most competitive middleweight show that's ever existed. So it was humbling to be a part of it. It was a great experience, and it made me hungry. I'm 8 months out from Worlds. That's all I'm focusing on. I'm trying to gain some size. I want to come in leaner, more muscle, dialed in, healthy, and I really think I can do some damage. So this is going to be a big run this year, and I'm really motivated and excited for that. So stay tuned to see how that's all going to come together. So thanks for watching, guys. I'm going to have more thorough explanations of what went down in each heat. I'm also going to have a recap of the finals. And if you have any questions or anything, or if you have any experience, if you were there, go ahead and comment in the comments section. Until next time, this is Bromley. I'll see you.